I finished Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward. I gave an update on it last time, and I finished it. I've had it finished for a while, and I went through all the patch content as well. So I'm officially in Stormblood. I'm doing a little bit of like in between, checking out some jobs and stuff. So I haven't really started the Stormblood story yet. I haven't even gone to the new zones. I'm basically just at the precipice. Let's just say Heavensward endgame. Heavensward is really good. It's really strong. It's got a couple cons, but for the most part, it was a very strong expansion. The whole premise of Heavensward is that you're now like political refugees in Kurthus. You're seeking asylum there after what happened at the very, very end of A Realm Reborn. And you end up getting mixed up in the whole Dragon Song War, the conflict between the people of the land and the dragons, which started ages and ages ago. And you got to figure out a way to broker peace between them. Okay, cool. Strong setup, strong motivation for us to do some hero stuff. And I think that Heavensward really succeeds in a way that A Realm Reborn didn't in storytelling. A Realm Reborn has the drawback of being very expository. At least the first half of the plot in Realm Reborn is just introducing you to the various locations and factions and big players and concepts of the world. And then, in like the last 40% of the game, the plot really kicks in and it gets pretty interesting. And everything kind of comes together and then there's like momentum and it feels good. Heavensward has a bit of a slow start because you gotta go to the new zones and do some stuff and see what's going on with some of the conflicts. Introducing you to the conflict, the introductory part, little slow. But once you really get in, and you get in much faster to the real plot, you get into it a lot faster. It's really interesting because it just focuses on a core group of characters. It's you, Alphanod or Alphanode. People always fucking change how they pronounce it. Some voice actors don't say it the same way. Someone's gonna get on my fucking case about that, or the way I say Ishtola. They say Ishtola, and some people say Yishtola. There's no consistency. I say Alphanod. That's how I read it. Alphanode. It's you, Alphanod, and then two sort of new characters. They were set up in Realm Reborn, technically. Estinian, the Azure Dragoon, whose whole deal is that he wants to fucking kill dragons. His entire job is to be really good at killing dragons. And then Izael, aka Lady Iceheart, who is a rebel leader who believes in peace between humans and dragons, and that there is that long ago humans and dragons used to live in peace, which directly contradicts the official church doctrine of Ishgard, which is that the humans just came in, or I guess they're all like elf people. They call themselves man, like human. I guess human is just the general term in this world for people. Because it sounds loftier when you write like that. Also because the basically human beings are called Hures and not humans. In any event, their story, the official story, is the dragons just attacked us for no reason. And then you go into and then Izael is like, actually no, they lived in peace and harmony for hundreds of years, and then the humans betrayed them. And now that's why the war started. That's why the war started. The humans started it. But she believes in that peace can be restored again, which is why she basically idolizes Shiva, who is like in the lore of the FF14 world, Shiva was like a human woman who fell in love with a dragon, and they were like a symbol of peace, and he ended up eating her, but it was cool actually. So and she adores her so much that she has like studied her and made some kind of like psychic connection to her spirit so that she can literally transform into her. And you have one of the best boss fights in A Realm Reborn. So this is your little ragtag group, and there's obvious interesting stuff. You spend like a good chunk, like at least half, or at least like 40% of the game's story, just essentially on a big hike with them, going through the Dragonlands, talking to people, talking to dragons, and having lots of little trifles. Izael and Estinian butt heads constantly, but they slowly over time gain a bit of respect for each other. It really changes when you get to one of the zones with architectural proof of the bond between humans and dragons, and Estinian's basically goes through a silent character change where he's like later on you're making camp and he's like, that shit really affected me. Like, he didn't say anything at the time, but he's like, he goes, yeah, I'm actually like kind of going through a lot right now, but I'm not like making a big deal out of it, but this is really fucking up my whole worldview. And he's like, he's still like fucking dragons, but he's like changing. And he's changing as a person. And that stuff is great, and it's really engaging. The second half of the plot is really carried by Amaric, in my opinion, who is a noble guy of one of the houses in Ishgard. But he's a G. He's really cool. And he's like a sensible, non-corrupt nobleman who is interested in, once he learns about the truth, is interested in, he just accepts it, and he's like, oh, you have proof? Oh, okay, cool. Well, we got to change society now. Like, our society is basically built on a lie. The whole class system that is like hammered into you in the early parts of the expansion. Our whole class structure and the upper and lower classes is basically built on a lie. We should change this. He's cool. I've said in the when I was talking previously about the game is that 14's story tends to be a series of talking to people and then doing a dungeon. But when the talking is good, I don't mind. And here, the talking is good for the most part. Again, couple slow parts of the story. There is one snag. Okay, there's like two snags. There's two significant snags that the story hits. It feels like, okay, they planned out the content roadmap for the expansion. And they said, we're going to do 6 new zones. And like a city, a new capital city. We're going to do a capital city and 6 zones. But they only had enough story for like 5 of those zones. So it has to be a certain length, but there's not enough like to happen within that length. So first of all, the story feels like what gets really sidetracked in resolving how the Realm Reborn patch content ended and all the stuff in Thanalan and all the political stuff, and it is very unsatisfying. And I think that's kind of the point. The point is that sometimes politics sucks ass and a total scumbag gets off, but we can't really do anything about it, and now technically things are better. But also, it's like, that was lame. I wanted to see Raubahn punt that little piece of shit across the field. I love Raubahn. Short people, they got no reason to live. That's a Randy Newman song, by the way. Go look up Short People by Randy Newman. Fucking crazy. Guy had a bone to pick. That's how I feel looking at all the asshole Lalafels in this game. So that's like a kind of unsatisfying tangent. Okay. And then you get to like the 5th zone, and like, okay, so something really big happens, and it's like, we need to get to this big floating island. It's literally, they do Laputa Castle in the sky. We need to get here, but there's like a barrier around it. We need to find a way to get through the barrier, which is like the 3rd time that this has happened in Final Fantasy XIV, and the 2nd time this expansion, by the way. We need to find a way to get through the big storm. And the way that they accomplish this involves, it feels like time is of the essence. That was like my reading of it. And then you just get sidetracked on like this whole big tangent about like getting Ishtola back, and fucking like part of it is you have to run around Gridania and pick up materials so that Tataru can make her a new set of clothes. And I'm like, guys, aren't like the villains going to get the big MacGuffin thing? Are we feeling any sense of urgency? And then the 5th zone, it just feels like so, oh my god. And it sucks because the prospect of going to Charlian is really exciting. There's all of these characters. So like, the Garlean Empire, the big kind of overarching villains of the game, of the whole MMO story, cause a lot of problems via their imperialist expansion colonialism, right? They displace a bunch of people, cause a bunch of political problems. The Alamigo people are like a constant kind of thing in the background of like, these are people that got displaced. The people from Doma are, are struggling against the Garleans. And several of the characters are from Charlian, which was displaced and conquered by the Garlean Empire. So the prospect of, going back to Charlian, but like some of its ruins of its ancient cities, that's really cool. That's a really cool idea. We get to finally see this location that's been kind of built up. But the way it's implemented just feels so fillery. It feels so fillery. And also, it's split across two... I don't actually know what the technical thing is. I don't know if like the zone refers to the whole region or just like the actual loaded in area. For the purposes of this, I'm going to say that the zone like is Charlian, but Charlian is like two big maps separated by a loading screen. And the main map, so there's one that's more of like a settlement city. The main map sucks to navigate. It's basically a horseshoe shape, but there's like a bridge at the top. And at the bottom, it looks like it should connect, but it actually doesn't. And you can like walk too far down a cliff and you can't get back up. And you gotta go peanut butter and jelly the long way around if you want to get back around, which happened to me several times. You have to keep going back to this fucking cave to talk to Ishtola's teacher. You gotta go back and forth and back and forth. And this, I would say, negatively compounds with... Oh, and there's no aetheryte. There's no aetheryte crystal there. You cannot just teleport there. You first have to teleport to the town map and then just go south to one of the two loading zones, which both end up at the same like big main horseshoe map, but on different sides. It negatively compounds with one of the changes made to flying and how mounts work. So in A Realm Reborn, you got flying when you finished the main story. When you finished the 2.0 and you beat the last boss, you unlocked flying. In every zone, in every map, with every mount. From Heavensward onward, they change how they give you flying to now being a exploration slash story progress slash side quest thing. They have these things called aether currents, and you need to unlock all of the aether currents to get flying in a zone. You unlock aether currents, they're like one of two ways. They're in like two categories. Either by finding them in the world and attuning to them, and once you find all of them, you have to find all of those, and then there are aether currents you unlock by doing quests. Some of them are side quests, some of them are main quests. And you need to get all of them. And there'll be like 8 or 9 or 10 per zone sometimes. And you're going to be spending a lot of time walking around, or I guess, on your mount because it's faster. You're going to spend a lot of time on your mount just huffing it on foot without the benefits of flying to just circumnavigate terrain. And oh my god, Charlian just sucks to navigate without flying. It really sucks. Once I finally unlocked it, it made it bearable to at least just be able to like fly across the big lake in the middle. Like, okay, cool. But yeah, until that point, oh my god, it was such a pain in the ass. And it just felt like a diversion, and like, dude, it feels like time should be of the essence. Why am I helping the goblin deliver scrap metal? Do I have to be doing this now? Why are we doing busy work? Why are we collecting bear pelts? And then the last zone is good, and then it brings it back. The last zone is really good. The final boss is great. The final boss completely won me back. The character you fight, the form they take, the references to prior Final Fantasy games, it just hit me in all the right spots. I think 14 is really tasteful in its references. You always... So, like, I have a friend who he's put a decent amount of time into 14. I think stopped at Shadowbringers, has never played any other Final Fantasy game. And he's perfectly able to appreciate things and not... something being a reference doesn't hamstring it at all, or, like, make you feel like you're not getting a joke. It's always very, like, oh, the fucking warring triad from Final Fantasy VI, and oh, it's because like we're on the floating continent. That's cool. This is it's a reference, it's an homage to something. But you could go through that and just think like, okay, yeah, there's 3 statues of like 3 god demon things. Cool. And it never sticks out to you that, oh, is this from something else? They make reference, they referenced Mog from Final Fantasy VI a couple times, which I popped off for. I didn't pop off. I pointed at the screen. I won't be so dramatic. So it brings it back. And then the patch content is honestly quite good. I like the patch content as well. It does the sort of thing where you feel like you're playing a lot of interstitial episodes that don't necessarily have a ton of weight. The first 3 patches feel like it eventually then kind of circles back into, okay, well, now this is important and I'm invested and I'm interested to see where this goes. And we're going to wrap up some of these plot points. Some of the logical plot points of problems that would occur as a result of how the base game ended. The base expansion ended. Okay, now we're going to see the fallout of that. Some people aren't a fan of this or that. Conflicts happen. We got to deal with it. And then, like, there's a really interesting episode in the middle of, like, near the end of that, like, or like after that feels like it sets up some neat stuff. And I enjoyed a lot of it. There's like a genuine, like, Star Trek ethical dilemma that's really fascinating. And it's good. It's good. The gameplay is good. The bosses were fun. The new zones look beautiful. Like Charlian, I just ragged on how ass it is to navigate. I love the aesthetic. It looks really... Excuse me. It looks awesome. It's very distinctive. It's big rolling green hills with kind of ruined architecture that is, it's a little Greek, like ancient Greek, but it's way more like white marble domes and stuff like that. And then there's the big lake in the middle. It's distinct and cool. And I was like describing it to my friend, and he couldn't remember what Charlene was. And then I described like a couple little features of it. And he was like, "Oh, that place, yeah." Like, it's very memorable. Ishgard, I think, is my favorite capital city in the game. It's just, the vibes are just awesome. I think I talked about this last time. I just love the gothic castle town aesthetic. The snow that's always falling. It's great. The Sea of Clouds is so cool. I want an entire game that's just set in like floating island clouds. I want Skyblock. Awesome, really cool looking zone. I was a big fan of that. And I've been talking for a while. The Dravanian, the whole like dragon country with like the big trees and all that was really cool. The final zone, that's like the big floating continent that's a bunch of crazy ancient Forerunner magical technology, was cool. Has a great, like, really distinct aesthetic. Breaks the game up a lot. Visually, it's great. The plot, for the most part, is really good. Very, very... It hooked me in. I care quite a bit about these characters. Here's something interesting. We're going to talk about character deaths. And I've already spoiled like a decent amount of the game, so I'll be talking about it, the rest of it here. If you don't care, skip to the next part. So there are 2 significant character deaths in Heavensward. One of them is a guy named Horchefant. Horchefant is one of the first people who takes you in A Realm Reborn. So I think you establish a relationship with him earlier in ARR when you go a little further north to like the, what is it? The Kurthus Highland? Whatever it is. Like the part of Kurthus that's in ARR. You can meet him there. You're introduced to him there, and then at the end, when you become a political refugee, he takes you in. He sets you up with one of the noble houses, the Fortons, and you find out that he was like a kind of low-born guy who worked his way up to be part of one of the noble houses, and he's a grinder, and he's nice, he's cool, he's your friend. The other one is unfortunately Izael. Izael is this rebel who has done a lot of bad things. They don't go into like super gory detail, but it's implied she's done a lot of bad things. She has gotten a lot of people killed. Maybe even, I think, did they say children? She's responsible for some kind of bad shit as a part of her political radicalism. But it's in service to this kind of dream she has of overthrowing the Ishgardian government and in like revealing the truth and making and changing things. She's a revolutionary. And she's done some bad stuff over the course of her life. And a lot of people hate her for it. During the course of the game, you go to meet Hraesvelgar, who was the dragon that Shiva fell in love with, and Izael is like, I idolize your dead wife so much that I can like incarnate as her, basically. I can channel her spirit. And Hraesvelgar is like, no, you can't. And she insists, and he's like, no, I literally can feel her spirit. You are not her. You're not Charles Barkley. You're just some wannabe that looks like him. And he basically tells her, what you're saying is nonsense. That can't happen. I don't know what you got into, but it's some kind of demon that has misled you into thinking that it's Shiva. And this revelation crushes Ezale. It makes her completely rethink her entire sense of self, why she's done anything, and what she's lived for, basically. Her whole world is basically torn down by Hraesvelgur's revelation. Later on, when you're trying to get to the floating continent, you are attacked by a Garlean airship. And Ezale basically rides in on the sky on Hraesvelgur's back, jumps off of him, and transforms mid-air to fuck up the airship. It's awesome, and she's basically... I can't believe they didn't play Oblivion, because it's like... Oblivion is about this moment. If you listen to the lyrics of her actual theme, it's about this moment. It's about, I'm not scared of dying anymore. It's literally like the thoughts that she's having before she does this. She's resolved herself to at least make something of her life, and if she dies, like, so be it. So she fucks up the ship, she does a bunch of crazy ice magic stuff, and as it's going down, she basically gets like a super mega blast, and that does it. That basically does her in. She falls through the clouds, explodes into aether, and dies. And I was pissed off. Later in the game... No, this happens earlier. Sorry. Earlier in the game, you find out, you're like, Aymeric goes to confront the Pope, who's actually secretly his father. It's kind of an open secret. And is like, we need to become clean with the people, that we can't be oppressing them, because our whole class system that's based off of, like, the noble houses, it's all a lie. The original king killed there was a bunch more, basically they find out that essentially everyone who can trace their family back to the founding of the nation is descended from one of the original, like, essentially round table knights. And they're like, the fact that some people are so quote unquote lowborn because of that is wrong, and it's inaccurate, and we need to establish equality. And so obviously his dad, the Pope, locks him up and is going to try to kill him because fuck you, we have to maintain power. You go on this rescue mission. At the end of it, Pope Dad and some guys are escaping on an airship. Someone tries to snipe you with magic from a spire. Haurchefant jumps in front of you, takes the hit with his shield. It goes right through the shield, impales him. He dies. And he's like, it's fine. He drops the classic line. He says, a smile better, like, don't cry. A smile better fits a hero, I think. And then he dies. And I'm gonna be honest, I did not care that much. This is apparently a highly controversial opinion to have in the Final Fantasy XIV community. I think that people in the 14 community are just like big crybabies. Everyone talks about how traumatic the story is and how much they cry at all of it. And I genuinely don't know what they're talking about. It's good. It's really well written at several points. It's very engaging. There's some great characters and some effective emotional moments. But, like, traumatic? Like, okay, come on. Come on. Sorry if I'm being dismissive towards your feelings. I just really would not take it that far. And Haurchefant's death is one of those moments that is, like, sacred to the community that I just don't really get. And I realize when reading through people's thoughts on his death versus Ezale's, I found Ezale's death very affecting. I didn't cry, but I felt bad. I felt really bad. And it hit me a lot harder. And I was like, why do people focus on the Haurchefant death? Ezale is like a way more interesting character. And I realized that there is a divide, perhaps between the way that I and some other people get invested into characters. So for some people, and there's probably other people who agree with me, I'm just talking like I'm the only person who goes through this in the world. For a lot of people, Horchafant's death is more effective because he was a better overall person. I always thought Horchafant was a little boring. He was nice, and he was your guy, he was your bro, and he helped you out, but I just was never that interested in him. Ezael, it's like when he died, I was like, yeah, I mean, that's in character for him. It's not sad. I just didn't feel that much. When Ezael died, I thought she's a significantly more interesting character. She's much grayer as well, but she's got a lot more going on, and she is just more intriguing. She's more interesting to learn about. And so losing her is not just like, it's sad that she sacrificed herself. It's also that this is an interesting character who I won't get to see more of. And that's a real bummer. And apparently, a lot of people are the exact opposite of me. If a character, like just a character being nice, isn't really enough to get me to care about them, if they're nice in a particularly engaging way, or they show themselves to be a good person. I think of like Roderick from Berserk. Roderick is a great character who up to now has not had much going on. But I think he's really funny because Berserk is a series where every authority figure and everyone of high social status is a complete bastard piece of shit. They are all the most scumfuck corrupt assholes ever. And everything in the Berserk world is just absolutely fucked because of them. Because they are so corrupt. And there's this whole plot where... oh my god, I keep wanting to call her Ferris because of like the Final Fantasy character. Oh my god, why can't I remember her name? She's getting arranged married to this guy. And the main characters are like, we have to stop this from happening. And they show up, they crash the party. And they're like, you aren't gonna marry her. And he's like, what? And then she's like, yeah, I really don't want to get married to you. And he's like, oh, you don't? Why didn't you just say so? And she's like, what? And he goes, yeah, I'm not gonna like make you get married if you really don't want to. I would never I like you, but I wouldn't. It's just a political marriage, you know? If you really don't, if it's that big of a deal, I won't, we don't have to. And everyone's like, oh, okay. And then demons like flood the city, and he's like, do you guys want to, I have a boat. Do you guys want to escape on my boat? And they do, and he never betrays them or anything, and he's just along for the ride, and he's just like a genuinely chill guy. Which, like, the whole time you've been reading Berserk, this handsome nobleman shows up. And you're like, oh, when's he gonna turn? And he just never does. He's just like a genuinely nice guy. And if he died, because he's interesting in the context of the story, I think I'd be sad about that. I'd be pretty sad about that, because I was invested in him. I just wasn't that invested in Horchafant. You spent so much time with Ezael. On the road, you know, talking to Astinian, changing his mind about things. And, like, she's a cool character, and she deserved better. My girl Ezael. I think this is just a divide that I have with certain other people who, I don't know, how the way that we consume stories. I think it's interesting. Yeah, I enjoy. Okay, so I'll give a caveat. When I played through Heavensward, I kind of like to do a thing where when I'm playing through an expansion, my idea is, and I've only played through the base game and Heavensward at this point, but I kind of want to do a thing where I play through the story on one of the new jobs that was added in that expansion. And for Heavensward, I decided on Dark Knight, because I've heard that in Shadowbringers, the Dark Knight has one of the best plots. Sure, okay, I'll check that out. I'll do some Dark Knighting. I like tanking in 14. Let's have a ball. Unfortunately, at least to level 60, Dark Knight is a very boring job. It's a boring tank. If you've played any other tank, you've played Dark Knight. And it's a shame because Dark Knight is a very flavorful job in the context of Final Fantasy. They sacrifice their own life points to get access to powerful spells and damage boosts and stuff like that. And that's a fun, flavorful mechanic that you could work into like a tank class. Oh, how do you do that? Maybe there's some kind of drain tank or something like that. And yeah, you kind of do. You don't, for some reason, there's no health costs in Dark Knight. It feels like a really weird flavor miss for the job. Other than that, Dark Knight is a completely standard tank. It is a basic tank. You have a 3-hit combo. You have a 2-hit AoE combo. You've got some damage mitigation buffs. Okay, well here's the big mechanic. Here's the job gauge that you get for Dark Knight. The dark hold meter or whatever. So here's the thing. You press a button to do an attack. And then when you do that attack, you get a damage boost for 30 seconds. That's the whole thing that the class has going on. That's its only gimmick. Isn't it? That's so cool sounding. The one neat thing they have is their invulnerability equivalent. Every tank job has some kind of invuln move. For Dark Knights, theirs is very unique. It's called Living Death. And it makes it so that once you pop it, you basically get this status for 10 seconds. And if you die, if your HP hits 0 in that time, you become like a zombie. And you start at like 1 health or 0 health, and you can't die. And the healer has to heal you back up. Which is cool. It's probably the worst invuln in the game. But flavor-wise, it's really cool. I never had to use it a single time. I've never used it once, because none of the content that you do for the main story is ever hard enough to warrant it. Even some of the difficult content, like the hard mode stuff, not hard enough to warrant using it. So, that probably dampened my enjoyment a little bit. For Stormblood, I'm a little caught between Samurai or Red Mage. I think I might just go with Red Mage, because Red Mages are super cool. I've always had a real love for that job. And I'll probably give an update when I'm through Stormblood in a while. I just leveled up Monk to 50 for fun. And it's like fine. It's a perfectly fine job. It does not feel good until level 50. Let me tell you what, it is not a great feeling job until 50. Yeah, other than that, Heavensward, good expansion. I can see why so many people say that the game picks up at this point. You can feel them learning a lot of lessons from both A Realm Reborn and the making of Heavensward. So, I'm excited to see where the story goes from here.